Hello and welcome to 21st Century. I'm Daljit Dhaliwal. Far too often, working as a journalist means putting your life in jeopardy. At least 125 reporters were murdered in the last 2 years, according to UNESCO, the United Nations agency charged with freedom of the press. Today, we meet 4 Iraqi journalists who have risked everything for their profession.
The streets of a typical Iraqi town in 2010. Shoppers, bustling cafes, pretty normal looking. Overall, violence is significantly down from the worst days of 2006 and 2007. Reflecting every twist and turn as the country's political parties vie for influence, slick TV news shows, endless political ads, a mass of street posters, and literally hundreds of newspapers. But despite its vibrant media scene, Iraq is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist. This year's elections brought a renewed surge in deadly attacks. According to a recent UNESCO report, 77 journalists were killed over a 4-year period, and countless others were threatened or attacked. And yet, a remarkable number carry on, among them Amina Al-Tahabi and her husband Saad Saloom. They recently had twins. It's a joyful new experience for them, all the more so because doctors had told Amina she couldn't have children, not because of illness or a genetic condition, but because of what happened in 2004 as she and her driver crossed a busy intersection.
I saw a man in a mask. He had a rifle, and by his side there was another man with a gun, firing at me. Next to the driver there was a third man, who also opened fire.
Amina was compiling a television report on militia groups at the time. She believes it was her work that made her a target.
I took 2 bullets from a revolver and 2 from a Kalashnikov. 1 bullet went into my leg here. 1 cut through the papers on my lap and then went through my leg here. And then another one entered my waist.
1 bullet lodged in her pelvis, another near her spine. Doctors at first thought she wouldn't be able to walk again, but they were proven wrong. And Amina continues to work to this day, covering economic and business news for the Al Arabiya channel.
Scared or not, I'm never going to have a second chance to live. I took a decision and I kept going. I can't imagine ever being a prisoner behind 4 walls.
But outside those walls, journalists like Amina continue to be at high risk. Threats come from all sides, from militia groups, security forces, political parties, and criminals, anyone who might dislike a news report. When Amina was attacked, her husband rushed to the hospital. It happened to be Amina's birthday, and he was amazed at her resilience.
She said, "You didn't know what to get me for my birthday, but I already got my gift. It's 4 bullets." I think that kind of humor and irony sums up the contradictions that journalists and Iraqi citizens live with every day.
Saad Saloom, who covers politics for German media outlets, also survived an assassination attempt. In his case, the book he happened to be holding stopped a bullet. Now, Amina says, they constantly look out for each other.
We call each other every hour on the dot. And if there's an urgent news report or we hear an explosion, we call each other to make sure that we are safe.
Neither of them goes out at night. They consider it too dangerous. Amina is all too aware of what Iraq's violence can do to families. She made her own documentary about it, traveling to interview 4 different women around the country. One woman, she explained, for each bullet she'd received.
Iraq is a very dangerous place for journalists.
UNESCO's George Papagiannis says the recent death toll for Iraqi journalists is having a profound effect.
The journalist was killed, on average, 1 every 6 weeks. That's completely unacceptable. Add to that the threats that happen toward journalists, add to it the violence that encompasses them, and what you get is a chilling effect that essentially silences journalists and prevents them from contributing to the information base that is necessary and essential for an Iraqi democracy.
UNESCO helps train journalists in the country and seeks to change perceptions of journalists by spreading accurate information about their work. UNESCO also presses the police and the court system to end impunity by going after the killers of reporters like these. Exercising free speech in Iraq all too often means putting your life on the line, something that this journalist, Ahmad al-Abadi, knows only too well. He's the host of this popular hard-hitting television program called Opinions Without Borders. Today, the focus is on prostitution and the politically delicate subject of government permits for oil drilling. This is the first time Ahmad has driven a car for several months. The reason? The last time he was in a car, lured out by the offer of an interview, he was shot 4 times at point-blank range in the head and neck.
I got 3 bullets in my head and the 4th one in my neck. You can see it now. It went through here and came out there. I lay unconscious on the steering wheel for 15 minutes, and then I woke up.
Covered in blood, he managed to drive back to his workplace and was taken to hospital, where he was treated by local surgeons before being transferred to a facility in Germany. He believes the shooters were a militia group connected to a political party.
I call this the silencer democracy, because a silencer is frightening and dangerous. And by the way, I was shot by a gun with a silencer.
He's pessimistic that the authorities will follow through on their investigation into the shooting, but consoles himself with his family.
My happiness is out of this world when I hug my children and I'm with them, and I show my feelings while they are beside me. It's definitely something I can't describe.
Sudad al-Salhi previously wrote for major Arab newspapers and now reports for the international news agency Reuters. She's another journalist who made her reputation by taking on subjects that other reporters steered clear of.
We were receiving thousands of phone calls from some people who they have great information about militia or Al-Qaeda, but they couldn't trust anyone, including the government or security sources or Americans.
Sudan says it's extremely difficult to establish a space for Iraqi journalists where they're seen as impartial professionals and not as mouthpieces for one faction or another.
We were taking this information and publish it just because we have no right to make a link between us and the security forces. At that time, we are journalists, not spies or whatever.
Having also survived an assassination attempt, she didn't agree to have her husband and daughter filmed. She fears another possible attack at any moment.
I insist to open the door before anyone else, just to be sure that if there is anything, it will explode in my face, not in my daughter's face or in my husband's face. And inside me, I believe that they will kill us someday, me or my husband. I believe that.
Her husband stands by her, but her mother, father and brother have all pleaded with her to quit journalism.
It's like something in your blood, like drugs or something like this. You cannot just sleep and say, I don't care anymore.
Four journalists, 4 lives that almost ended in the most brutal fashion. simply because they were doing their jobs as reporters. Sadly for Iraq, after years of determined survival and successful reporting, all 4 are thinking of leaving the country. But none of them has given up hope for journalism. They believe in its importance now more than ever.
The shooting will definitely not stop me. It won't stand in my way or block my path.
Our life is beautiful in spite of all the things people say about it. I'm not talking about the beauty of destruction or the beauty of danger. I'm talking about something else, the value of being alive amid all these enormous challenges.
My next project is making a documentary about freedom of speech. I'm using it to find solutions and to promote new legislation from Parliament so that we can achieve freedom of speech in Iraq.
The challenge for Iraq is to create the conditions in which journalists can function freely, in which the media's vital role in sustaining democracy is widely recognized. Without such a profound change, talented, intelligent, and above all brave journalists like Amina and her colleagues will be lost to the country forever.